Hello everyone and welcome back to another video tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching how to draft a torso sloper or basic bodice by converting a waist length sloper into a torso sloper or basic bodice. In my previous video, I demonstrated how to turn a waist length front sloper into a front torso sloper. The steps and process for drafting a back torso sloper is similar to that of the front torso sloper, with a slight difference but yet very important step, so please watch this video to the end. Like I said before, both the waist length sloper and the torso sloper are both considered a basic bodice with a slight difference between them, with one ending at the waist level and the other ending at the hip level. The advantage of the torso sloper is that you can use it to sew a blouse and also a short or long dress. You will just need to adjust the length past the hip level to your desired length when drafting a dress pattern. To start, you will need two measurements, your hip depth measurement and your back hip arch measurement. Your hip depth measurement, which is taken at the side seam, is used to draft both the front and back torso sloper. The hip depth measurement is measured from the waist to the hip level. The second measurement you will need is your back hip arch measurement. Your back hip arch measurement could be taken from side seam to side seam at the back plus half an inch seam allowance. Or measure the hip circumference plus 2 inches of ease divided by 4 plus a quarter inch. Use whichever formula or calculation you're more comfortable with. To prepare your waist length sloper for drafting a torso sloper, first at the intersection of the waist and bottom of the side seam point along the straight line at the waist, square in or measure in 2 to 3 inches. I squared in 2 inches. Then from that point, draw a straight line upwards towards the armhole back notch, or where the across back line intersects the armhole. Next, cut along the straight line up to the notch point but not beyond, so that your sloper is not completely detached but divided into two pieces. I will explain the significance of the slash line and why your sloper was almost divided into two pieces later on into the tutorial. Next, cut enough paper that is wide and long enough to draft your torso sloper. Then cut off the half an inch seam allowance all around your sloper, leaving only the 1 inch center back line that is at the end of your sloper. Do not cut off the 1 inch center back line. Notice that I taped back the slash line to make the sloper one piece. It makes it easier to do the cutting off process of the half an inch seam allowance. However, what you should do is cut off the half an inch seam allowance first, then do the process of splitting your sloper into two pieces. Next, draw a 1 inch center back line along the lengthwise edge of your drafting paper and make sure all the edges of your paper are straight. That will ensure that your 1 inch center back line is also straight and not skewed. Then place the sloper on the drafting paper. When placing the sloper on the drafting paper, make sure that the 1 inch line on the sloper aligns with the 1 inch line on the drafting paper. Make sure you leave enough room at the top of the paper to draw your 1/2 inch seam allowance at the neck and shoulder area. Once your sloper is aligned properly and secured on the drafting paper, starting at the waist, measure the length of your hip depth along the center back line. Then from that point, draw a line that is the length of your back hip arch measurement. Then square the guideline upward towards the waist point at side seam. Then from that point, draw a 3 1/4 inch line. From this point, some drafting method will ignore the 3 1/4 inch line and tell you to just draw a straight line from your waist point to your hip level line. That is one way to do it, though you will not get a side seam that is identical to the front side seam. What you want is a side seam curve that matches the side seam on the front sloper. To get a side seam that is identical to the front sloper, shift or pivot the second piece of the back sloper to the 3 1/4 inch point like so. Notice that the 3 1/4 inch point level has changed and doesn't match the previous 3 1/4 inch point we drew earlier. So pivot the second piece of the back sloper to the new 3 1/4 inch point and secure it onto the drafting paper. Then redraw the 3 1/4 inch point to the level of the side seam. Next, draw the hip curve using your French curve ruler and curve the waist point as well. Measure the gap between the two pieces and divide that measurement by 2. Whatever measurement you get, split that measurement on either side of the dart. Note that when you pivoted the second piece of the sloper to the 3 1/4 inch point, you made your waist measurement wider than its original and actual measurement. To bring your waist measurement back to its original and actual measurement is why you're adding 1/2 inch of the gap measurement onto both sides of the dart. Next, extend the waist dart middle leg by 5 1/2 inches to the hip and draw your new side dart legs. Your dart should have a diamond shaped finish. Once you're done with your dart, the next thing to do is add your 1/2 inch seam allowance all around your sloper. Be aware that your dart is now wider than its original measurement and that when you sew your garment together, you will have a big and bulky dart. So in this next segment, I'll show you how to reduce the size of a big and bulky dart. Trace your dart onto your fabric like so with a tracing wheel. I have a carbon paper underneath to help me outline my dart. Once that is done, I remove the carbon paper. Next, I mark my dart points onto my fabric, then remove my pattern and redraw the lines of my dart onto my fabric and reshape the dart at the waist point so that I won't have a sharp point at the waist. Here I'm just pinning my dart together and getting ready to take to my sewing machine and sew it up. Once the dart is sewn up, the next thing to do is to trim down the size of the dart with the scissors. This will reduce the size and bulkiness of the dart. To prevent your dart raw edge from fraying or coming apart, you could either use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine to secure your raw edge, or use your interlock machine to serge the raw edges. This will give your dart a clean finish look. Here is the final result after the dart has been trimmed down. Okay everyone, we've come to the end of this tutorial. If I have made drafting a torso basic bodice a little bit easier to understand and helped further your fashion designing experience, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share and comment down below. Until my next video, bye everyone.